Hey, Katie here, and this week's question comes from Tanya, and she says, well, first of all, she says, love your short videos. I have a question for you to consider. Any study tips for kids that are slow processors? Now, I think this is a fantastic question, so thank you so much for asking this, Tanya, because the advice that I would give for this will actually apply for any students, no matter where they're at or whatever challenges they may or may not have in their learning. So first of all, what I will say is if this is a formally diagnosed learning challenge for your child, absolutely make sure that it is being managed with the school, and they may well also qualify to have extra time in exams. We want to make sure that they're getting all of the help and the support and the additional provisions that they are entitled to. The second thing I would say is that I would try to identify what their preferred learning style is. Now, this is actually something that came about, well, it will be over 15 years ago, because it was really sort of quite a big deal when I started my teaching, which is around this visual, auditory, and kinesthetic styles of learning. Now, really, we can all take on information in all of those ways, by seeing, by hearing, and by doing. But there does tend to be something that each of us is a little bit stronger in or more receptive to. Now, there are lots of online quizzes, so anyone can go and take one of these online quizzes, but very often we kind of know for ourselves sometimes like what that is. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that suddenly the school or the teachers are going to present everything in the way that best suits our learning style. And I would argue that in order for us to really, optimize our performance in life, as well as academically, we actually want to work on building our weaknesses, not just play to our strengths. But whenever your teen has a task or something that they have some ownership over or independence in, let's say maybe it's researching for a research project or an investigation, I would be looking for them to complete that task or look for those sources or resources that match their preferred learning style. So is it something visual? Is it something auditory? Or is it something more practical where they can take on that information and potentially as a way for them to record that information or like digest it or process it or produce it for themselves? So think about preferred learning styles and whether they have one. And the other thing we want to consider is that information being understood? Do they actually understand what they are finding out or what they are writing down? And the best way to do that is to transform that information from one format to another. If it is written notes originally, maybe in a textbook or on a website, can they change that to a diagram, a flowchart, a table, a mind map, even a drawing? If they have that in some other form, that shows that they have been able to transform that information and therefore they understand what that information is. Another way to do it is actually just to have them have a discussion with you about it. They can do it verbally. Okay, so that's the other step as well, is making sure that they understand what it is that they are learning. In other words, they are processing it. And I often talk about processing information into a different form. That's what we mean when we talk about doing active revision and active learning. And then the third point is probably sort of saving my biggest and best for last. And that is, if some of these things that they're doing are going to take a long time or be more of a challenge than they maybe are for certain other students, we want to make everything as effective and as efficient as possible. And really, who doesn't want that? So this applies for everybody. And what that means is being clear on what we're doing, but also how we're doing it and why we're doing it. So listen really carefully to this part for everybody. What I mean by that is if they have a task, let's say it's just a simple homework task, or maybe it's something much bigger like doing research for an investigation or an inquiry, what we want to get really clear on is exactly what do they need to do, like doing some pre-planning and organization before they dive in. It's very easy to end up getting lost in the weeds sometimes and ending up spending time and effort and energy on things that aren't necessarily needed or aren't going to pay off. So spend that time at the start thinking, okay, what really needs to be done here? Maybe what equipment do I need to be able to do it? How am I going to complete that task? If it is research, precisely what information do I need to find? Why am I finding that information? Because again, it's very easy, isn't it, to go down some rabbit holes and end up finding information that could be perfectly interesting and perfectly accurate, but is it going to serve us for the task at hand? So with that, it's also very important to decide what isn't required. What don't they need to do? What don't they need to have? What information isn't required or doesn't need to be found out or researched or used in a particular task? So what is required, what isn't, how are they going to find it, and how are they actually going to complete it? So we always want to help students be spending their time and energy and effort on the right things, on the things that are going to pay off for them. That is, of course, even more important for those students that find some of those tasks and that information processing a little bit more challenging and a little bit longer to do. So I hope that helps, Tanya, and I hope that that helps for everyone watching this video. Have a wonderful rest of the term and a fantastic week ahead. Until next week, have a great week. See you soon. Bye.